Welcome to Earth's Mightiest Weirdos. Gentlemen, how are you doing tonight? Rob, how are you?
I'm fantastic. I missed you guys.
Oh, man. We took 1 week off and it completely threw off the entire multiverse of activity. Mark Valentine, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. It's been 2 weeks for me because I banged out of the Zombies episode.
That's right.
Because I was traveling to Florida to come and see all of you wonderful people. So I am really out of practice here, guys.
Well, we do have an honorary weirdo, his first time on the show, Mr. David Rosen. How are you doing tonight, David? Oh, David, it looks like David can hear us, but we can't hear him. So we'll try to get that going here in just a minute. We'll see if David's mic gets fixed, and we'll work on that. But I've got some screaming in the background. I apologize. It is quite the night right now. Marc Valentine, if you want to run the comments for us, that'd be great.
Sure.
Well, let's get into it. Let's get weird, says Facebook user. If you are a Facebook user, there's going to be a link in the comments, chat.restream.io/FB. Give Facebook the permission that we can see who you are. Anthony's given David crap for saying he had one job. Anthony's here. Kevin's here. David, can you hear us? We still can't hear David. So I'm going to pull David down for just a minute, and we'll see if we can get that mic fixed. We'll pull David back up here in just a minute. But Mark, before we get into the Marvel, you did come down to see us. What did you think of your time in Florida doing Dudes Do Disney?
We had a great time at Disney. We had an incredible time at Halloween Horror Nights. It was my first trip to Universal Studios, Florida. You guys rolled out the red carpet for me at Universal, and gentlemen, it did not disappoint. The Disney guy was thoroughly impressed with the park that shall not be named.
And the best house of the night was?
Beetlejuice.
Yes.
Beetlejuice.
Okay.
It's showtime.
All right, I pulled David back up. David, can we hear you? I don't know what's going on with that microphone.
You might have to hit the settings cog or hit the gear, David. Make sure that the audio input, make sure it's selecting the right thing.
Oh, we heard him for a second.
I heard something. No, and we're down.
All right, so we'll see if we'll wait for David. We'll try again in just a little bit. But Mark, I'm glad you enjoyed Halloween Horror Nights. That was fun, man. For the group of us that was there, that was an absolute blast. So even though I didn't get to spend a lot of time with Rob, we kind of saw.
It was that weird rain. Yeah, it was like there was like 2 hours of rain right early in the middle of the early to middle of the night. So we all were stranded on different sides of the park.
Yeah. There was a lot of rain that night. Well, gentlemen, before we get into talking about what if, we've got our weekly segment, The World According to Jax. Jax, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good.
What did you think of what if? We got 2 episodes to talk about tonight. What did you think of it?
The first one, I liked how Killmonger was, Killmonger, the bad guy of my favorite superhero, was the main character, but it wasn't my favorite episode because he killed my favorite character.
Yeah, your favorite character is?
Black Panther.
Yeah, he killed a lot of people in that episode, didn't he? What about Party Man Thor? What did you think of that one?
I didn't really like that one either because Thor is already is like funny. He has a lot of things good about him, but him liking to party and him not being as responsible, I just wasn't sure about his personality in that episode. You didn't
like his personality? No. He was kind of a jerk.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there's something else that you've got going on in your world, right?
Yeah.
Why don't you tell us about this thing right here?
So me and my sister JC have been wanting to do a podcast for a while, and on Saturday, our first episode of United We Fan Kids came out.
What did you guys talk about, and who was with you?
We talked about our top 5 favorite Disney rides for the first episode, and Marc's Marc's daughter Bella was with us on the podcast.
This kid Bella.
Yeah.
She had a blast too. Do you think Bella's going to be on United We Fan Kids pretty regularly?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe she'll be a co-host.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, United We Fan Kids, it went live on the internet, right? That was a little bit frightening, but it worked out okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Anything else you want anybody to know?
No.
All right. Thanks, buddy.
You're welcome, Dad.
All right.
I feel like Dad panicked, but then he handled it.
Kid's gonna have Bryan's job in like less than 3 months, I think.
That is my mistake. Let me do that again.
Well, I panicked, but then I handled it.
There we go.
Can we let's just admit
David, we're getting a little bit of feedback. Do you by chance have?
there it is.
David at a different angle. David, can you hear us? Oh no. I thought we had it fixed. David, speak. All right. Well, we heard David say what's going on, so we're getting there. So I'm gonna pull David down for just a little bit while he works on his output audio. We'll go from there. But gentlemen, let's get into it. We have 2 episodes to talk about. And Rob, we'll start with Killmonger. What if Killmonger saved Tony Stark? Rob, what did you think of this episode?
Oh man, what a crazy turn of events in this episode. I'm enjoying all of these for what they are. I'm trying not to read into them because I don't know if they have a bigger place. The main lesson I think I'm taking from all of these, I'll give my deepest thought right out the gate, is just that I think it's trying to tell you all your experiences are what makes you who you are. So if you change those experiences that a person has, it can really, really vastly change, the outcome of what we're used to. But I definitely enjoyed it. What a master plan. This got to be one of the best villain moments we've seen from Marvel, for a Killmonger to have that plan from A to Z and execute it so well. It's crazy, man.
Yeah, he went from chief security officer to chief operating officer in about 14 seconds.
Yeah, and then to Black Panther. Like, he got the best jobs for every part he went to.
Yeah. Mark Valentine, what did you think of this episode?
So in a world where we can accept and believe that there's Marvel zombies, I apologize that I found the plot to be somewhat implausible. That it was interesting because like Rob said, there are just so many plot points that hinge on other people, and it's like how could he have predicted that Tony Stark would have done that would have made him like the CFO? And then it seemed that so much of this plan hinged on other people. And so
let's see. David, speak real quick. See if we've got you.
I think we've got him.
Can you hear me?
I think there.
Hey.
Sorry to interrupt you, Mark, but we have him now, so I just wanted to make sure we've got him. Sorry. Go ahead, Mark. Sorry about that.
No, again, like Rob said, so much of it was enjoyable, and I'm along for the ride on What If. I take each week as it is. I don't put too much into it that I don't get emotionally invested if it's something that doesn't work. But this was the one episode that I felt like there were a lot of misfires for me in just accepting the way that it was written. The other stuff, I feel like it's been a lot more plausible, or I believe that like A can lead to B can lead to C. This just felt a little bit more disjointed, and maybe we can get into that later on. But it just felt like the things were a real stretch to connect how Killmonger becomes the Black Panther. It just, I don't know.
So David, before go ahead, Rob.
I was just going to say, before we get too far off that topic, I disagree. I thought he played everybody perfectly. Like, I think that's exactly what Tony would have did. He saved his life. Then he outs Obadiah. I know we're going to get into all that stuff, like, which is exactly what Tony would have done. So I think that Tony was like, yeah, that's what I would have done. He put up in the courtroom with Justin Hammer in Iron Man 2. He just threw up all those things about how Hammer Tech isn't catching up. Like, so then, I don't know. It felt, I liked it for those reasons. I felt he played every character exactly the way you would have to get that result.
Did someone say Justin Hammer?
Anthony, is that you?
David, before you tell us what you thought of the Killmonger episode, what do you think of What If in general? How are you enjoying the show? And welcome to Earth's Mightiest Weirdo.
All right, let's just one final audio check. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. It's been kind of a mixed bag for me. It started out pretty good. I enjoyed most of the episodes. Doctor Strange so far has been my favorite. I think in general, what I'm discovering about this show is that I want to see situations. And now that I'm saying this, I realize I might contradict myself later, but I like seeing situations that we don't get in the MCU. So, as we move, or as I transition now into what I thought of the Killmonger episode, I felt like we saw a different version of Black Panther, but nothing about that episode really intrigued me. I mean, it was cool to see it was cool to see different things play out differently. The what if for me in this episode was really, what if the MCU was fully realized when Iron Man came out? But I thought maybe this was going to be an episode where Killmonger was good, but it turned out it was just the same Killmonger, but in a different situation than the Black Panther movie. So
honestly, it was a little bit of a worse version of Killmonger, in my opinion.
A worse version, you said?
Yeah, like he seemed a little bit just that much more evil. I don't know. But it was interesting for sure. I thought we were going to explore what if Killmonger had been taken back to Wakanda in 1992 when his dad was killed, and exploring kind of that personality, but that's not what happened at all. So I mean, and I've said it in our private chats, and again, to what David said, like I want to explore what would happen outside of the normal MCU, and then talking out of the other side of my mouth of, I got really frustrated in the Doctor Strange episode about how this being such a pivotal moment in time, when they're saying that he could never realize his full potential without the death of Christine Palmer, when we saw him realize his full potential in a universe where Christine Palmer didn't die. If the car accident had been that moment in time across all multiverses, and that's maybe the key sentence there, is it doesn't cross multiverses, but it was, I don't know, like it ventured too far out there for me, maybe a little bit. But I'm getting very tired, and we'll talk about this at the end of Party Thor as well, that the most intriguing storyline from every single episode is actually the tease storyline at the end of the episode every time, like when Ego finds Peter Quill, or when Ultron Vision shows up at the end of this one. Now we got our poster today for this week's episode. We're clearly exploring far more of Ultron Vision with the Infinity Stones and all that kind of stuff. So I may eat my words depending on what happens in the season finale, but I just want to get to Hawkeye at this point. I'm going to be completely honest.
Bryan, one of the things that you said that I really agreed with and I picked up on, that there were conversations that we were having backstage, when you said that you were hoping that there would be a little bit more interconnectedness with these, that the fact that they're one-offs, and that you were hoping that the Watcher would play a more prominent role, that he started to come forward and out of the background in the Doctor Strange episode, and then he's been absent ever since.
Yeah.
That, I mean, then he's been relegated to almost the same role, which is he's just the narrator, and then he has the epilogue and he has the prologue, and he has no interaction at all. This was the episode that for the first time then I fatigued on. It's another one-off, and if I like the story, if I like the self-contained story, and I like that last episode, that last part of the episode where they tease something else, then I like it. Like, I liked almost every single episode save for Killmonger, because I even felt like, and we'll get into the ending, there wasn't a great payoff in the ending of that Killmonger episode. It was just, he got found out that Shuri and Pepper are on the case, and it just leaves it at that. The moment was really just him getting talked to by T'Challa of, you didn't earn this. So I kind of left that episode just going, if it's not connected, to me, we talk about filler episodes all the time in the Star Wars series that we talk about.
I don't know what you're talking about. Star Wars doesn't have anything like that.
This to me very much smacked of a filler episode.
Star Wars' whole filler series.
Yeah.
Shh, shut your mouth.
I got the sense that. Oh.
Go ahead, David. Sorry.
Oh, I was going to say, I get the sense that they don't quite know what to do with this series yet, because I think a lot of us probably thought that this was all going to converge in one story down the road, but they're going in different directions. Yeah. We got Ultron Vision with the Infinity Gauntlet at the end of this episode, but then we also got zombie Thanos with his own Infinity Gauntlet at the end of the zombie episode. So are we going to get now 2 stories where there's a villain that has the Infinity Gauntlet when we already saw that in Infinity War? So I don't know. I hope that they aren't. I hope they aren't doing that. We'll see how these things resolve. But that kind of seems that where they're going, and there isn't really anything cohesive that this is all working towards. It seems like some stuff is going to culminate, and other stuff they're just going to leave dangling as like a one-off story.
And
But
I'm fine with that.
That's where I get frustrated, honestly, is I spent 25 films and 3 series building this very connected universe, and now we're playing by all these different rules, multiverses everywhere, where everything can be a little bit different. If you want to know how to keep your timeline straight, stay close to Earth's Mightiest Weirdos. We're going to be able to tell you how these timelines all match up. Also, just FYI for anybody out there in the audience, Venom Let There Be Carnage at this point does not have anything to do with the MCU, and we're just going to discuss that when we have to. But let's just leave it at that for now. I got a couple of questions about, do I need to go see Venom? No. Let's just go with no for now. But I just, like, it's just multiverse and multiverse and multiverse. And that's why a lot of people fall away from the comic books too, is it just gets too confusing to know what counts and what doesn't in each different multiverse. I like the 616 universe and kind of building off of that. That's kind of where I'm at. But I mean, I don't know. Maybe they'll make me eat my words. And I just, when this show was supposed to be non-canon exploration of what would have happened if something had changed, I was cool with it. But now with the introduction of the multiverse at the end of Loki and everything that we're doing, I don't know that I love the idea. But I know Rob is far more, a little bit, I guess, more
optimistic
on the idea. Yeah, optimistic's a good word. But
I
Rob,
can't believe I'm the one. I can't believe I'm the one being the most optimistic. But whether it's canon or not, the other beauty of it is I don't think it matters because there's an infinite number of multiverses.
Correct.
So whether they pull from these villains or not, and it is, like I said, it is an interesting way that we can get a character back that we've lost because they died in the 616 universe, and you can bring whatever version of that character you want over if you need to and you want to.
Right. And I say I don't want that, and then I loved the series, the Loki series. So I mean, there's no way that you can have it both ways. So Rob, we'll get into talking about the episode. We start off right away. Tony gets saved by Killmonger, who then is promoted to chief security officer and head of Happy, which really bothers me. And then he outs Obadiah Stane and gets put in as the COO of Stark Industries. So
first thing I liked about this, he mentioned the 10 rings twice. He was doing a mission where he was watching the 10 rings. I don't think we've heard the 10 rings come up before Shang-Chi. And now
the 10 rings was the terrorist group in Iron Man, in the original Iron Man.
Oh, I didn't even know that. So I didn't even put that together. So that already connecting that for me was kind of cool. So I really enjoyed that. And like I said, now this is the most egotistical version of Tony still. This is before he went through all the stuff to make him Iron Man, which is also so interesting. So all of a sudden, this superhero comes to save his life. If it wasn't for that, Tony was gone. He outs Obadiah as somebody that's gonna be the problem. Of course, Tony's gonna jump on this guy. He's his right hand man now. He's gonna become his bodyguard. That's the exact type of impulsive decision that this Tony Stark would have done back in 2008.
I really enjoyed the line of, he goes, "What if we just shrunk down the energy of an arc reactor?" No, that's a stupid idea. And then they just move on. I really liked that. And then using the vibranium tech instead. But David, it was kind of interesting how they pulled in that Stark tech was Killmonger's angle all along. What did you make of that?
It was interesting. Like I said, the what if for me in the series was, what if this entire universe was realized at the beginning? I thought it was interesting that Killmonger chose to kind of do his plan. That definitely took balls. I feel like to try to plan out how everything, to figure out every single little step. I realize that's part of his intrigue as a character. An interesting thing for him to do, to go through Tony. one of the things that I wish that we could get more of is that the entire MCU actually a cause and effect of let me start again. The MCU that we get happens because Tony Stark becomes Iron Man, and now that we aren't getting this Iron Man, does that snowball effect not happen, and just everything that we know from the MCU not going to happen? I wish we would get a chance to see that. I doubt we will. That was one of the more questions that I had about this episode.
That's Mark, and I'll toss this to you. Something that I found interesting is throughout the episode, Killmonger was looking for somebody else to blame it on, and he had this entire plan where even he turns the robots back on after they turn off when they walk into Wakanda, and said Tony had built this backup. Tony was such a believable villain to the naked eye.
A few weeks ago, I talked about, and I framed Doctor Strange and said, without this event, without the loss of his hands, he wasn't humbled. And therefore, he really was the villain of that episode, because that event didn't happen as we know it in 616. And he was not humbled. It was a very different Doctor Strange, one who was much more dangerous to the timeline. I think you could say the same thing of Tony Stark here, because Tony was not injured, grievously injured, because he was not forced to have that come to Jesus moment where he was then, essentially forced to look at himself through the lens of his own weaponry, look at the damage and the collateral damage that his weapons have been causing. And because he was not given that time in the cave, I think that in the same way that we had a bad Doctor Strange for the universe, this was a really bad Tony Stark. That Tony was the problem here, and he gets played perfectly by Killmonger. And it's just fascinating. Like David brings up such a great point, is without that moment, without Iron Man, it sets off a chain reaction that's going to reverberate through the timeline. And I thought the same thing too, not to that extent, but I'm wondering if we don't have an Iron Man, is there an Avengers initiative as we know it? And it was really fascinating to see, without Iron Man, how much more prominently Black Panther plays in the narrative at a much earlier time period. So it was there's a lot of aspects. And again, this is where I do take these episodes one at a time. There's a lot of interesting things in this episode. There's a lot of, the thing I like about What If nothing else, is it's thought provoking. It's really good television in that if you're a fan of Marvel, it really makes you think. That's what's great about the show, is it's really like, when I turn it off, I come and think about things like this. And I haven't done that with other shows. Like I didn't do that with Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I just enjoyed that at face value as, a smash and grab, really great action show, a really great narrative on other aspects of the MCU that we hadn't gotten. What If has me thinking about everything that we've seen thus far and really just taking a critical look at it. So
Patrick says, I'll get to you in just a second, Rob. Patrick says, even if What If doesn't connect to the main timeline of the series, he's still enjoying it. Alex says that even if it doesn't matter what counts, as long as the storytelling and animation are good.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that I'm in love with all of the storytelling, but again, I'm not trying to be super negative. That's just kind of where I'm at. Go ahead, Rob.
Based on what Mark just said, though, I just want to stress the point, because I think it's a bigger thing taken for real life. Is just that how many people in life are going through a hard time right now, especially after this pandemic. I think it's trying to tell those people, whatever hard time you're going through, these are the things that are going to shape you into that better person. Because look, we're seeing all our superheroes without those hard times failing in What If. And I don't know why that's the story they're telling, unless that's the lesson they want. But I think that's the beautiful takeaway from it.
Yeah, I like that, man. Without the hardship, they're not heroes. And that's just, we've seen that now 4 or 5 times without that hardship, without that event, and from Spider-Man on, there is an event.
Spider-Man's the easiest example, Mark. I was going to say that if Uncle Ben doesn't die, Spider-Man's not Spider-Man.
Yeah. Good
Great
stuff.
power comes great responsibility. Rob, I'm going to throw this one to you, and I'd like you to run with it. Why, Alex says, why did Killmonger feel the need to turn those robots back on just to get more kills? I think for me, T'Chaka was not turning him into the Black Panther until after that.
That is exactly it, and that was a beautiful moment. I forgot exactly what the line is he said, and now I wish I would have written it down. But there's a point where T'Chaka says something nice to him, and he's like I want more than that, and then he turns the robots back on because now he is going to be this big, glorious savior, and he knew it was going to happen. Like, he proved himself to the entire Wakandan community in that one act, and he avenged T'Challa's death. I have not seen villainy like that probably since Heath Ledger's Joker, where you hear the famous line from Alfred and that some men just want to watch the world burn. That is this version of Killmonger, and it is a gloriously evil version of it.
That is not a multiverse that will ever be included in the MCU. David,
no, it will not.
David, what did you make of this entire battle scene and just the turn that T'Chaka makes with Killmonger?
It's one of those things where it's, on the one hand, it's amazing to see his plan develop. You know, he's even ahead of us. He's one step ahead of us as an audience, but then we see things. I think when I saw his little clicker in his finger in his hand when he went to turn the army back on, I think I realized what his end goal was. But from a pure creative standpoint, I like a scene plan develop, and I also like seeing his what am I trying to say here? I'm seeing that it's one of those things when you're in a movie, you know the plan as the audience, you want to scream, no, don't listen to him, don't take him in, but he just did such a good job of endearing himself to his uncle,
right?
Perhaps even take advantage of the fact, knowing that he has regret for what happened to his father. You know, he's taking advantage of all of that.
Yes,
he's firing on all cylinders to admire that.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Like, everything works out exactly according to plan. He even gets the chance to blame Tony again, saying, well, why would he build in that backup? And he was just calling Tony conniving and villainous and everything else when it was exactly what he was. But he becomes the new Black Panther. And Mark, I'm going to toss this over to you. Killmonger, again, best part of the episode, just like it is in the movie, when those trips to the ancestral plane and seeing all the old ancestors, and T'Challa confronts Killmonger. What did you make of this scene, Mark?
This was the one scene that I loved. This one sequence in this scene. Anytime I can get more T'Challa, I'm all for it. But this was the really nice scene. Again, this is one of those bigger moments that it makes you appreciate and enjoy, just like we were talking about a minute ago, that without this event, you can't be the hero. And that, in essence, that's what T'Challa is kind of saying to him is, he didn't earn the victory, that, that what he has was stolen. I know that Killmonger won't appreciate that, but it was almost like T'Challa was basically saying, like, dude, you're going to get a karmic kick, like, really quick. Your instant karma is coming. And then almost immediately, then we see Shuri and Pepper are conspiring to say, we're on this guy. And you're led to believe that he's gonna be overthrown rather quickly as the Black Panther. That his time as Black Panther will be just as short-lived as it was in 616, because it wasn't earned the way it should have been. But I love the ancestral plane. I am very excited for Wakanda Forever, because I love the mythos and the lore of Wakanda, and I love the mythos of the Black Panther. So when I see these moments, I'm really excited for them. So this worked for me.
T'Challa saying to Killmonger, power unearned can be a volatile force, cousin. It will get the best of you eventually. Like you said, karma's coming, and it's going to get you, and it's going to get you bad. But we talked about how the end of this one didn't really necessarily have the most to tease if it turns out in the finale that we get Pepper showing up in some sort of armor rescue or something like that, and Shuri being the Black Panther, then I will eat my words. But Rob, Shuri, and Pepper, they come to the rescue.
They do. I mean, and I think this is just more of them pushing the female superheroes. They're empowering women more. I mean, I think that was the takeaway. It's the fact that these women behind the woman behind Iron Man and the sister to Black Panther, like that. That's what it is for me. It's showing that the girls got it, and they do.
Shuri seemed younger. T'Challa didn't. I thought that was interesting. Shuri was clearly a younger version of herself. T'Challa, not so much. Mark, it looked like you had something there.
Well, I saw something online. I have to go and I really haven't confirmed it, but there were some people that brought up the concerns. There's not a lot of female-led projects and female-led movies in the MCU throughout Phase 4 and beyond. So
I don't know if that's an
accurate statement. I mean, I'm thinking to myself, you have the Marvels, you have She-Hulk. There's not a lot though. I'm not thinking of outside of that. Can you guys? Is there a lot of stuff that's there?
You're going to get Riri Williams as Iron Man. You're going to get the new Hawkeye. You got the new Black Widow.
Ironheart, you've got Kate Bishop. We don't know what's going to happen with Shuri and Black Panther. You've got all three Captain Marvels, Ms. Marvel, Captain Marvel, and Monica Rambeau.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got a heck of a lot more than you used to have. We don't know what the focus of the Fantastic Four is going to be. Obviously, Reed Richards is going to be a big deal, but Sue Storm, like, obviously is a big deal part of the Fantastic Four as well. So I'm
thinking tent poles.
Yeah, I mean, Ironheart, but Kate Bishop, Haley Steinfeld as Kate Bishop is going to be awesome. She's as much the main character of Hawkeye as Jeremy Renner is.
You're also getting female Thor.
Yeah, that's true.
So I don't know what's that, David?
Right. One of those Wakanda series that Ryan Coogler's working on, I think, I believe is an Okoye prequel series, if I heard correctly.
I don't know if that's confirmed, but there seems to be a lot leading to that as well. Something Dora Milaje, which somebody pointed out in the comments, the main mud runner of talking about just T'Challa's mother as the general, the Dora Milaje. That was really cool. So I mean, Angela Bassett's awesome. So that was always good to see. So I don't know if that's a super fair criticism. It would have been fair 5 years ago, but I think now they're trying. I think they're trying. Well, David, let's move on to the next episode talking about Lady Thor. We saw Jane Foster make her return. David, what did you think of Thor as the party prince?
How do I put this? I liked it as soon as the episode was over, and the more I thought about it, the more this episode. I thought that like when as soon as it was over, I said to myself, "Well, that was fun." And then I started thinking, and I kept thinking, what was the point of that episode? This Thor does not really learn anything at the end. He doesn't have to pay for his, he doesn't have to pay for any consequences.
Doesn't get his.
He almost gets away. Huh?
I said he doesn't get his comeuppance.
Yeah. This is not really a Thor that I see as a hero. So I didn't buy the premise of this episode that Loki is what kept Thor responsible. I didn't understand that. I don't understand how not having life made him even more of a party animal or frat, if you want to put it like that. I just didn't buy that. If anything, I thought he would have been more. If anything, I thought he would have been the one to keep him, make loose. Part of his personality was loose and fun. I feel like that would have come from Loki, and he would have been much more straightforward without having Loki in his life. So there were some things that I had a problem with. The best part for me really was the end when Ultron Vision showed up. So
Frost Giant
might be in the minority.
Was a lot of. Yeah, you're good. Mark, what did you think of it?
Yeah.
So many, many moons ago, I had the hot take of hot takes on Thor, calling him, and I believe, and I quote, lazy. And I was eviscerated by my compatriots in this community,
Rightfully.
But again, in some cases, I will die on that hill because I think that this episode, if nothing else, justified me that Thor, when left to his own devices, is not, he doesn't grow enough. And my point being was that for
Homeboy's lazy.
Homeboy is lazy. And for 85% of the Infinity Saga, my point was that he underachieved, that he did not actualize his potential really until Ragnarok and maybe afterward. And these guys killed me on that. But I think, again, guys, it brings up a very valid point of Thor traditionally does not take his role as a god seriously. Even in 616, that he rests on his laurels. He's very powerful, but he's somewhat irresponsible with that power. And if anything, I think that Loki was good for him. Like, and David was saying, there's some of it's not plausible that, without Loki, that's the Thor we get. I don't know if that's true, but there is some, elements of Loki in the universe that Loki does push Thor further in 616, and then without him, there's no push. And so you just get party Thor. Because there's really no check on his behavior. There's no brother figure to kind of put him in his place when things are getting out of control. But I mean, I honestly did not take this episode super serious. I laughed a lot at it. When it was done, like Bryan said, I was most interested in Ultron Vision, and I was like, ooh, that's what I wanted. Like that. Why didn't we get that?
I think we're getting it this week at least.
But it was fun. It was light. It was funny.
Rob, I would be lying if I said I desperately didn't want, or I wanted Thor to play the piano at some point, because just it would just been too perfect. But unfortunately not.
It would have been funny. Now I will say this though. I can't disagree with my co-hosts more here today on a lot of the things that you guys are saying. This was so much more of a comic book version of Thor for me that I think he's meant to be. Like, Thor doesn't take things seriously. The only reason he cared about Earth is because he met Jane Foster and kind of, I think of this more as the Hercules thing where Hercules comes down to Earth and falls in love with Meg in the Disney version. That's the only reason they care about Earth. Earth is a speck. They don't care if they get rid of planets or whatever. We have such a small lifespan compared to the gods that they are. Jane was the only thing that really set Thor on his path, which he didn't have to do because he wasn't cursed to come down to Earth. And not having Loki cause those problems, he didn't have to be the mature brother. He could be this party version of Thor. This is one of my favorite versions of Thor, dare I say.
Would you say that Homeboy is lazy?
I would say he's lazy among other. He's here for a good time and he's here for a long time because he's a god. Like that's the beauty of this. So I really enjoyed once again without having all the struggles that he had to go through. This is who he possibly would have become. It's interesting.
Him resetting the Leaning Tower of Pisa made me laugh for a lot.
me too.
I thought that was absolutely hilarious. But let's get into it. There was lots of fun cameos. Thor has a lot. What's that, David?
I said it was a little Superman 3 for me.
It really was.
That's fair, actually. There was a lot of fun cameos. Thor has a lot of friends, including all of the Guardians of the Galaxy. Rocket passed out in the sink. Jane and Marky Mark could not be here this evening, but he wanted to make sure that we got his opinion out there that this is the best version of Jane Foster that has shown up on screen. She seemed to be a lot more loose, just a lot more fun. I think we're going to get a very different version of Jane Foster in Thor Love and Thunder on May 6th. I think it's going to be a whole lot of fun. I'm very excited about it. But even Elvis married Darcy and Howard the Duck, so Darcy is officially off the market. But I mean, keeping diplomatic relations and everything else, that all the jokes that they had was funny. But Rob, did you have a favorite cameo from the episode?
Ooh, I always like seeing the Grandmaster when they were driving off on the scooters at the end. I enjoyed Drax calling Thor the party pooper. The way it was just a very Drax line about it. And I always love seeing Howard the Duck. You want to throw Seth Green in any of these? Howard the Duck could be the new Stan Lee, as I'm concerned. Just throw him in every movie once,
Please.
David, how about you? Was there a favorite cameo in the group?
I don't know why I enjoyed this so much, but just seeing Rocket passed out was enjoyable. And then yes, Howard, he's always fun. I don't know why. Seeing Rocket just passed out in the sink was fun for me. And as much as I did kind of poop this episode, I did think it was a lot of fun. What's interesting is that the MCU proper has conditioned to take things so seriously that when they like this, or even the zombie episode where logic doesn't always matter the most, it's hard to just let be and enjoy the episode. So I tried to do that. It was fun, but once I put on my analyzation hat, things change a little.
Yeah, I don't know, but I mean, there's some people that even said this about Ragnarok, and I thought they were insane because Ragnarok's incredible. But Mark, what did you think of it?
I loved all the cameos. I really enjoyed, like Anthony just said, the arch is the world's largest slingshot.
And Anthony is joining us from St. Louis, so he really appreciated that.
I loved the Leaning Tower of Pisa getting righted. I loved Stonehenge getting knocked over.
That was funny.
Like there were just a lot of like little fun touches that the episode was just irreverent. And again, David just said this, you're conditioned to treat this universe so seriously. This was just the opposite of it. Nothing was serious and nothing stuck. And almost at the ending that, all the crazy shenanigans that happened, then like all of a sudden miraculously get cleaned up because, here comes Thor's mom. It was like weird science to me with Thor. That's what this episode was. It was weird science. Mom and dad are coming home. Holy crap, we just tore the planet up. We got to clean this up before we get ripped a new one.
It was nice nobody died. I mean, we hadn't had that one for a while. I love Alex throwing shade at St. Louis in the comments. That makes me laugh. No, it was, I mean, you guys are turning me a little bit like, I know I take this way too seriously, hence the reason we have Earth's Mightiest Weirdos and how much I love the MCU. But I mean, I guess you're turning me on it a little bit, but I still it wasn't my thing. But I was never really like the party animal guy either, so that's not something I'm used to. But I mean, I guess we could do the MCU Animal House version. I would take
Frankie Rosa in the comments. Thor European vacationed Stonehenge as a verb.
Well, Rob, one of the best things, it did give us one of the best hero on hero fights that we've gotten. Definitely in this show, but in the MCU, that like Captain Marvel and Thor going at it was a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun. That's on the same. That's probably on a higher level than Hulk versus Thor. Really, when you think about it, based on just power and how quick they were going to nuke everybody, even with Captain Marvel handling the situation. That was a little interesting. But yeah, I mean, that's a great superhero fight. So if this show allows us to see a couple of those that we wouldn't probably otherwise see, they're never going to be against each other on the big screen. So let's enjoy it here.
It was a little unsettling how quickly they wanted to use that nuke. They wanted to use it faster than IG-11 wanted to use the thermal detonator on himself.
Yeah.
They were just like, let's blow it up.
Yeah.
Happened in Avenger.
Yeah.
And also just remember, this is coming after that Loki series. Think of all those Lokis we saw towards the end of that series. Could you imagine all the different multiverses if we had certain stories about what was going on? There's going to be some really crazy stuff going on. I think they're really just trying to prepare you for how crazy the multiverse can and probably will be.
When Thor has to float in the sky and say, "My mother's on her way," and she's really, really angry. Like, I was just like, what are we watching? So, but Jane calls Thor's mom. Frigga makes her way to the planet. Everybody takes their own personal responsibility. Having the Frost Giants have to reset the London Eye back in place. Like, it was super, super silly. And I mean, I guess that's the point. But the science and the magic tattoos that Thor and Jane got, it was just super silly. And I mean, I guess you guys are helping me feel a little bit.
Would you say that she was friggin' mad?
Hold, please.
Well, Mark, is that better than being hella mad?
Hella mad. It is. My mom is coming and she's friggin' mad.
Oh man. Okay. I apologize.
We've gone off the rails. I just stonehenged the episode.
Oh man. All right. Well, we're gonna finish up by discussing what sounds like it is everybody's favorite part of the episode, and that is Ultron finishes completing Vision's body and then going into it. Rob, you're shaking your head.
I mean, that is probably the greatest villain of all time if we get to see it worked out. I mean, that's with the Infinity Stone. I don't even know where to start with this. I had to kind of just take that, and I've watched it a couple of times since, and just I have to shut my brain off, because who's beating that? How are we beating that? Is this just showing the world is going to end in this scenario? Are we going to see this character? It's insane. It's insane to me.
So this is promotional art for this upcoming week's episode. So I think it's going to get a little bit darker. But to refresh those memories of everybody saying, why is Vision in Ultron and all that kind of stuff, in Avengers Age of Ultron, Ultron had stolen the vibranium to build a suit for himself, basically, and then he was using Dr. Cho's technology to create this body, and then that is what ended up becoming Vision. So for lack of a better term, it is not Vision, this is Ultron. And he apparently obtained all of the Infinity Stones as well, so it's going to be a bit of an issue. David, what did you make of Ultron here?
Yeah, I'm really excited for this. Age of Ultron, the movie, something lacking of the villain, so I'm excited to see basically what Ultron was working toward. And he has an he has all the Infinity Stones. So I'm really excited to see this. And I don't know, maybe this version of Ultron will give us, will teach him some sort of lesson, and will bring Party Thor closer to the that we are more familiar with. I'm not. Do you guys know if he's supposed to be teaming up with any heroes to take on this version of Ultron, or he's supposed to take him on by himself?
I would hope that he's teaming up with all of them. Like I can see some sort of scenario where Uatu is letting free, like, Dark Doctor Strange and Captain Carter's making her way into this universe. They're all having to fight. Like, I'd be kind of okay, honestly, if the ultimate version of this season of this show is this version of Ultron and everybody having to fight, like Uatu finally. That's one of the biggest things too that I get a little bit frustrated by, is Uatu was so close to interfering with Doctor Strange, and then he took a back seat again for another 4 episodes. Like, if we wanted him to get that close and then not interfere, I wish that Doctor Strange episode had just been further on in the series, because I want to see Uatu get involved, and I think by the end of this season with the next 2 episodes, I think we will. Rob, go ahead.
I think the only reason he talked to Doctor Strange in that episode is because that world was over.
It was over.
I agree. So he collapsed that world. Go ahead, Mark.
I was going to say the only scenario that I think Uatu would get involved is if this timeline actively threatened others. If Ultron showing up just destroys or collapses this timeline, then Uatu would not get involved, because he doesn't with Strange. I think the only way he would get involved is if this story, or if this timeline had the chance of disrupting other realities.
Right.
But
otherwise, I think he don't care.
Did you notice how shocked he was when all of a sudden it changed when Ultron showed up? Like, he was about to say happily ever after or a happy ending or something,
right.
and then Ultron shows up and he seems surprised of it. So like, where did this Ultron come from? Where did he acquire the stones? Like I can go down a rabbit hole of, we could all do it probably for hours. There's so many questions that I want answered.
He got them from the TVA. He just went in
Yeah,
that guy.
Go ahead, David.
The whole thing at the end when he was like, wait, what? I think he keeps saying he cannot, he will not get involved until turn out a way, until things happen in a way that he did not foresee or foretwatch.
But he's not
that'll be his evidence.
He's not a visionary. He can't see the future, right?
I mean, he kind of lives.
So.
He's kind of omnipotent.
But
yeah, I guess I don't know. Is he on the level of Kang? And that's a lot to think about.
And this is not the same universe that the last episode took place in, because you need Tony Stark alive to go through what he went through to get us to that Age of Ultron movie to even create this. So where is Tony in this universe? Where is Bruce Banner in this universe?
Well, it seems like whatever universe outside the MCU, Tony dies.
Yeah,
he's died 3-4 times already in this series.
I think we're all happy to say that we're excited to see what Ultron brings in this upcoming week, and then who knows what the finale is going to hold. So we got two episodes left of What If, and then we're going to be on a bit of a break until November 24th when Hawkeye comes out, which should be a lot of fun as well. I'm very excited to see Haley Steinfeld in as Hawkeye, but as usual on Earth's Mightiest Weirdos, we're going to finish up with a Marvel Family Feud question. Name the Avenger most likely to own a library card. Mark Valentine.
Bruce Banner. The Hulk.
Number 2. Rob.
Ooh, Steve Rogers.
Number 1. There are 6 answers on the board, 3 through 6 remaining. David. Avenger most likely to own a library card. Doctor Strange is not on the list. Mark.
Medical library not count?
Tony Stark.
Number 3. Rob.
Peter Parker.
Number 5. He needs it for high school.
Of course.
David. Number 4 and number 6 remain.
Shuri?
Not Shuri. No. Mark.
Natasha Romanoff, Black Widow.
That is incorrect.
Wow.
The last 2, Thor, I don't know why, and Ant-Man, I don't know why.
Didn't they just watch the last episode of What If? He would not be in a library.
But
No.
if Loki was in his life, then he would, apparently.
Yeah.
And neither would Ant-Man. He'd break in before he
I
got a
disagree
library.
with the people. Thor should not be there.
Yeah, people, the customer's not always right on this show. You're wrong, people.
They're not.
Mark, I am not done talking about animated shows that we wish interconnected a little bit more and continued further. When should we talk about those some more?
Well, why don't we do that on Wednesday night at 8:30
Okay.
in our first Bobby's Freaking Podcast live stream to show you why you need more Star Wars anime in your life.
We will have a special guest for that show as well, Robert Klauser, who joined us on Earth's Mightiest Weirdos to talk about T'Challa as Star-Lord as well. So Robert's going to join us to talk about all 9 episodes of Star Wars Visions. It was good. There was some that was really freaking good.
Can I just say, can we please get David Harbour as a live action Jedi? Just please, anyone out there, let's get a petition.
Just pick up Alexei Shostakov as the Red Guardian and just make him a Jedi. Like,
Make him a Jedi.
yes. David, we did not get a chance to plug earlier. David, what do you have going on? I know you have a podcast that I would love if you told everybody about.
Yeah, I just started a podcast a couple of weeks ago. It is called the Modern Gods Podcast. It is a discussion mostly about the MCU, but also other superheroes and all how they work, some of the themes and ideas within that exist in all these franchises, from different religions and cultures, and how there you go. That logo was made by the Klauser from your show.
Nice.
But it's a show where I talk about different themes and that can be found in religion, different cultures, They all why they exist in these episodes or movies or TV shows about characters that are essentially our modern gods.
The Shang-Chi discussion was absolutely fantastic. Well done, David. I'm looking forward to future episodes. What is going on in Piano Land?
Piano Land. Let's see, where do we start? So Friday night we're at Boathouse. Sunday morning also at Boathouse. Sunday night at Tin Roof. Saturday I am doing a show for WDW-NT, which I know everybody has their views on, but this is a good cause. They got all furloughed entertainment from Disney, people that lost their gigs because of the pandemic, and we're putting on a big show on Saturday. That's going to be live streamed there. So it's a really good cause. So I'm excited to do that one. So that's this week before the 50th celebration starts at Disney here on Friday.
Now, Rob, I didn't clear this with you ahead of time, so I'm running the risk of putting this live on the internet, but you were doing some stuff with Kids the World too, correct?
Yes, for another wonderful guy, if you follow him, Chris Spokesman Media, he does a big thing called the Streamdom every year where he raises a bunch of money for Give Kids the World. We already started some promoting for it. We did something at a house this week. It was great. Marc Daniel was there, that crazy Disney lady. But I'm going to be playing at Give Kids the World Village on Thursday, December 2nd, which I'm very excited about that. Which look up Give Kids the World Village if you haven't. It's the greatest organization. It really truly is. I can't think of a more noble cause than giving kids that don't have much time, honestly, a wonderful village of just fun for them and Disney, and it's just beautiful cause.
And that is going to be playing during the Night of a Million Lights on December 2nd.
I believe so. I believe that's going to be going on. I think they're doing. I don't have all the details on the Night of a Million Lights, but I believe they're doing the exact same thing they did last year, where they have sponsors that are going to decorate all the houses. It's just going to be a magical wonderland. It's going to be awesome.
Patrick asked in the comments, how will we handle Eternals? We will handle Eternals very differently than we did Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Shang-Chi came out in the middle of What If going on. We didn't know how to fit it in. Being a theatrical exclusive, we weren't sure how many people were going to see it. But suffice it to say, we will have a gigantic Shang-Chi discussion after What If wraps before Hawkeye starts. And then on November 5th, when Eternals comes out, we will be discussing Eternals very quickly afterwards. So, Patrick, stay tuned for an announcement as to exactly when that's going to happen and how. What is going on in this Diz Life land?
So Dwayne and I are doing a wrap-up of the Dudes Do Disney that we recorded a episode basically breaking down all the stuff that the dudes did this last week, from parks to dining to some stuff that we learned along the way. It was good. Good time.
And then Wednesday night, 8:30, Babu's Freaking Podcast, our first live stream discussing Star Wars Visions. And then on United We Fan dropping on Wednesday. Mark and I were joined by fellow weirdo Kara. We discussed all that is the series Parks and Recreation. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us for all time.
Always.